All right, body count, does it matter? Should it matter? Why does it matter if it matters at all? Everyone asks themselves this question at some point, but people will ask themselves this question, but not take into consideration something. They won't take into consideration the fact that your past doesn't define who you are today. Humans don't come out of the womb with infinite wisdom, and we're basically molded by our environment until we have the ability to critically think. And it's not until we have the ability to critically think that we're able to question what we've been previously taught, possibly reject what we've been previously taught, and make our own decisions. And the reason I say this is because some people either didn't grow up with a healthy role model or they have some sort of bad emotional trauma. So they try and fix that pain by going to quick pleasures. And many casual sexual partners is one of those things. Now, this isn't always the case. Some people just think, well, sex feels good, so I'm just going to keep on doing it. And the reason sex feels good is because our bodies are biologically designed to reward us when we have successful reproduction. And that reward is dopamine. But dopamine isn't the only thing that our bodies can release. Our bodies can also release oxytocin. And oxytocin is essentially this chemical that can bond multiple people together. The way it works is the more you trust someone, the more likely it is for oxytocin to be released. So if you're sleeping around all the time, you got all these one-night stands, then there's not gonna be a whole lot of trust going on because you're just basically using each other for quick pleasure. And that means there's not a whole lot of oxytocin release and not a whole lot of bonding happening. Now, some people are hearing me say this and are thinking, well, that's great. That means I can sleep with whoever I want, whenever I want, without creating a bond. So when the time comes, if I ever want a lifelong partner, I can just build those trust levels up with them. Trust levels will increase, oxytocin will be released, we'll bond and we'll live happily ever after. But that's not how the brain works. Yeah, your brain will still release dopamine during sex, but your brain can separate sex from bonding if you sleep with enough people casually. And a common theme I see is someone will have someone they really like, they'll have sex with them for the first time, and for whatever reason, they'll break up, whether it's because they don't know the definition of love or something like that, or that's just they're too young. So they'll go out and they'll go and sleep with a bunch of other people pretty casually. They're just there for the dopamine hit or to fill some sort of void. And then eventually they find someone they really like. They like them, they trust them, but when they have sex with them, it doesn't feel the same. The connection isn't there. It doesn't feel as good as the first time, the first person. But it's because your brain has been rewired, retrained to separate sex from bonding. It's why the Bible preaches wait for marriage. It's why I preach wait for marriage. So let's say you didn't wait for marriage. You've had many casual sexual partners. You got a high body count. Does it matter? Should it matter? And yes, it partially does, but not completely. I hear the quote all the time, well, I don't want a car with 300,000 miles and 20 different owners. And when I first hear that, I think to myself, well, that's not really fair. Cars aren't humans. Humans aren't cars. Our value goes beyond our body count, so it's an incomparable analogy. But it's still partially true. Because like I said before, your brain can separate sex from bonding, and the higher the body count, the more likely that is to happen. So the quote, I don't want a car with 300,000 miles and 20 different owners, is still partially true because realistically, you want to play it safe with your lifelong partner. You want someone that can pair bond, and someone with a low to no body count, it's more likely that they'll be able to. Now, if you're hearing what I'm saying, you're agreeing with what I'm saying, you're nodding your head, then because you're agreeing with what I'm saying, then that must also mean that you agree with me that you are not allowed to say, I want to test drive my car before I buy it. I want to have sex with the person before I marry them. You're not allowed to say that because you can't say that body count matters because of pair bonding while at the same time treat sex like a test drive, a trial run. When you treat sex like a trial run and a test drive, you're contributing to the very thing you said you wanted to avoid. You're reinforcing the behavior of casual sex, the very thing that weakens the connection between you and your future partner. You need to hold yourself to the same standard you do other people. If you want someone that's weighted, if you want someone with a low to no body count, carry the same responsibility. Practice what you preach, or your word loses weight and you're a hypocrite. Now, some people are hearing what I'm saying and they're still agreeing with me, but they're saying, Luke, you're right. I don't have to test drive a Ferrari to know its value. But once again, you can't compare humans to cars, cars to humans, humans to a Ferrari. If a human was comparable to a Ferrari, then that Ferrari's value would simply be based off of mileage and wear and tear. Our value goes beyond that. Look up a 2026 new Ferrari versus a 2003 Ferrari with 60,000 miles. There's going to be a price difference. Humans aren't cars. Humans aren't cars because our value goes beyond our mileage. You can create a connection with someone outside of sex. Sex is just the add-on. Sex is just the gift you give to the person you love the most. And if sex is a gift you give to the person you love the most, then you don't want to be the only side giving the gift. Gift giving is a two-way exchange. It's why if you're a virgin, you probably want to marry a virgin as well. Now, some people might be thinking, well, what about birthday gift giving? That's a one-way exchange. Let's just do it that way. But that's an incomparable analogy. Because birthday celebrations are a one-way celebration. A relationship is two-way. It's mutual. Both sides contribute equally. Now, someone might be thinking, well, I've had sex before, but it was only when I was in long-term relationships. And because it was when I was in a long-term relationship, a committed relationship, then my brain must still be able to recognize that sex is an act of commitment. But unfortunately, that's not really the case. When you have sex with multiple long-term partners, then your brain starts to become confused as to what real commitment looks like. When sex becomes repeatedly tied to relationships that eventually end, your brain no longer sees sex as full commitment, but rather temporary commitment. You will still feel the connection, but the idea of full commitment slowly starts to fade. And with each long-term partner, this becomes more weakened and more weakened and more weakened until, like I said before, your brain separates sex from bonding. Same result. Many long-term partners, many short-term partners. Sex, bonding, or separated if you do it enough. Now, another common question that might be circulating is, well, I want to change, but I've had many casual sexual partners, many long-term partners in my past, but I'm afraid it's too late. I'm afraid what's done has been done. Is there anything I can do? I'll give you the honest answer. The same brain that learned all these unhealthy habits can unlearn them and revert back to its healthier self. But you have to want it bad enough. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult. You need to constantly separate yourself from all these bad situations that drag you back into these bad habits. And that's realistically easier said than done. People are more likely to fade back. You can't do it yourself. It's too difficult. You need God by your side. And confessing to God is the best way to do it. It's the best way to let go of your past. When we feel ashamed, it makes us want to hide from God because we feel like we aren't deserving of God. And when we hide from God, it gives us an excuse to go down this path of hopelessness and to repeat familiar behaviors and patterns. And repeat these bad familiar behaviors and patterns. But when we confess to God alone, we're putting our imperfections out there. We're no longer held back by our past. We're no longer ashamed because we're giving ourselves our freedom back. And this relates us to a verse, 2 Corinthians 5:17. So then if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. What is old has passed away. Look, what is new has come. God isn't looking for perfect people. He's looking for willing people. But you can't keep doing the same thing expecting the same result. You can't keep doing the same thing expecting a different result. Change requires sacrifice. Change requires discipline. Change requires surrender. And the second you understand that, the second you step into that, know that God was waiting for you the whole time. You just have to be the one to choose. God chose you, you just need to choose back. So at the end of the day, it's not about your past. It's about who you're choosing to become for the future. It's about who you're choosing to become, not just for your future self, but for the future of the people you're surrounded by.